If you remember a while back, I did a video about Naruto's best chapter, what I thought was the best chapter in all of Naruto, and I had the idea to make that video because of how granular I like to get when talking about manga. Anytime I get really into a series, I always like to take a step back and figure out what chapter did I like the best. And that can be a very hard thing to do. A single individual chapter. What was my favorite one? Not volume, I'm talking chapter. So in honor of Bleach Month, I want to do a follow-up to the video I did about Naruto's best chapter and talk about what I believe to be Bleach's best chapter. Before we get into the video proper, I just want to let you guys know, since the anime is currently airing, there will be no spoilers for the remaining to-be animated content in this video. Completely safe, this is about something that was already animated, so you're good. And also remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy. Thank you. I had to think long and hard about this topic. Figuring out the best chapter of Bleach was incredibly difficult. It was very hard to narrow down that one chapter that I think stands out amongst all the other ones. But the answer I came up with may surprise you. And I mean, you already saw the title of the video and the thumbnail, so you know what it is. But why? Why do I think it is chapter 526, The Battle? Well, let me tell you why. This chapter is a follow-up to the prior chapter where we learned about the backstory between Unohana and Kenpachi. How these two meet, what is Unohana's history, what is she? We learned all of this so incredibly recently at the time this chapter came out. This was brand new. Unohana was just the healer lady before now, and now all of a sudden she's the previous Kenpachi, like a bloodthirsty animal who's been around since like the early days of the Soul Reapers. Damn, all right, that's a lot to take in, but let's rock and roll with it. And this chapter, The Battle, is the rocking and rolling with it. We get all this information last chapter that we just kind of have to roll with. As I said, you really are just thrown into this. This battle happens out of basically nowhere, and I really do love it for that. I know this part gets some flack because of how sudden it is, and for how Unohana's character was kind of just utilized for this one moment to service Kenpachi. I get it, I really do. Unohana may have deserved better, but what we get from her in this moment is nothing short of incredible. The chapter opens in the heat of battle. Kubo utilizes some of his classic, stylish framing of action, the bloody sword starting it all, whipping the blood at the ground as Unohana flies at Kenpachi, and we move to the next page where the strike connects with so much speed and veracity, you can just feel it. Kubo's action is so amazing to look at, to the point where it honestly just feels like it's moving. You can see and imagine every little in-between movement that's not shown, because he shows us every aspect of the encounter, of the move, of the attack, of whatever that we need to see to understand everything that happened in that moment. Kubo is just a master at drawing fights and action, and that's precisely why I'm choosing this chapter, but I'll elaborate as we continue. Moving to the next page, we have a whole page basically dedicated to what I was talking about earlier with the fact that, yeah, Unohana was just the healer lady before this. And now we suddenly see her as Kenpachi? What? How? Why did she even learn healing to begin with? And now we have her directly answering this question. My favorite thing about this is, yes, Bankai activation here in a second, we'll get there. But I love how the answer is never actually told to us. She doesn't say, I mastered the art of Kaido because blah, 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 blah. No, she just says that and then activates Bankai, and then we see the greatest Bankai activation in the series, in my humble opinion. Yes, Yamamoto's is amazing, but come on, man. This page of her first activation, the way she pulls the blood in that like smile-like shape as blood rains from the ceiling and fills the whole screen with Kenpachi just kind of looking, I guess, surprised for Kenpachi standards at least. I don't really know exactly what you would call that look in his eyes, but he's certainly feeling something. Follow that up by just a completely black inked out page, Kubo's classic, holding the sword in the coolest pose in the world as she says playtime is over. As we then spend the rest of the chapter amidst this incredible battle, with the question running through our minds the whole time of why did she master Kaido? Why is she a healer? And the answer is plain and simple if you're looking at what's in front of you. She mastered healing so she could fight for as long as she wanted. so she can keep healing her body to make sure that she doesn't go down. And much like how it's not exactly spelled out for us why she mastered Kaido, her Bankai isn't explained to us either, which is incredibly rare for Kubo standards. And I remember back in the day, people were kind of annoyed about this. It like made it seem like her Bankai didn't have an explanation. Some people's takeaway from her Bankai was that it basically did nothing. It was just like a flashy show-off moment with no real substance behind it. But no, it does certainly do something. And what I love about the choice to not tell us what it does is it really puts us in Kenpachi's shoes. I mean, this whole part of the story is about Kenpachi. I know, Unohana, it's unfortunate that she isn't a bigger focus in her final moments, but at the end of the day, this really is just Kenpachi's story. We're not here for Unohana. She is a plot device, and yes, it does suck in that regard, but she's a really damn good plot device. So the rest of the chapter is just incredible looking fighting as Kenpachi is slowly realizing basically why he's alive. What is his purpose? Because this fight is where he realizes everything. This is his complete moment of clarity. It's all confined right here in this chapter alone. Yes, this is a multi-chapter long fight, but this is the time right here in this single chapter where Kenpachi realizes his purpose in life. As he's continuously killed and reborn over the course of this fight, the only thoughts on his mind are just how fun this is. My favorite line in the whole chapter, as small of a thing as it is at the end of the day, my favorite line is, "I've been asleep until now." This is the fight he has been dreaming of, and this is when he wakes up to reality. He's now facing that dream that he's been having. It's beautiful. It's so unbelievably cool to have this character who we've spent so much time with over the course of the series. One of my favorite characters, by the way. I love Kenpachi. He's just this battle-hungry monster in our eyes, who is, yes, extremely cool and very beloved, but there wasn't ever a whole lot of substance to him beyond that, you know, respecting strength aspect to his character. He's one of those. You've seen him in a lot of manga, but no one quite does it like Kenpachi. This is Kubo peeling back the final layer of the character, and the rest of the Thousand Year Blood War arc continues down that path. This is only the beginning of unraveling the mystery that is Kenpachi. This is the moment where he finally realizes what a battle is. He's been fighting wrong his whole life. This is the moment. And this is also where the chapter title comes from. The battle, because this is the battle. This is what battling is. It is not a battle, this is the battle. Both the final battle in Unohana's life, fulfilling her purpose of passing the mantle on to Kenpachi for real, and creating a hero who will go on to save Soul Society, along with others, obviously, but Kenpachi's role in the Thousand Year Blood War arc is pretty immense, to say the least. When you really think about it, this is Kenpachi's final boss. Every fight after this point is just post-game grinding. He's just upping his stats to the absolute peak, and we get to witness that throughout the rest of this arc as he overcomes that mental barrier that he's had this entire series. The final section of this chapter is dedicated to a conversation between the characters, but obviously they're not speaking, they are fighting. The words that we're seeing on page are just reflections of what they're communicating to each other through their actions. Dude, it shouldn't even be this emotional, but like I look at this and I get a little misty-eyed. It's just so beautiful how it's done. And we're just watching two people kill each other senselessly, but they're exchanging so much. And yes, it is literally spelled out to you. We are getting the dialogue translated to us. But how else are you gonna do it? You couldn't literally show us these actions and expect us to understand what the characters are going through. Maybe it's possible, but I think it needs to be spelled out to some degree. But the framing of this whole thing, Kenpachi asking her, "Did you know I love fighting?" Which tells us that this whole time, he didn't even really know he did. He just kind of did it. It's like an instinct to him. But from the beginning, from the second Unohana met him, she knew that he was exactly like her. It explains everything we've known about Kenpachi from the beginning. Why he restrains himself with the eye patch, why he lost to Ichigo, and the realization on her end of how they choose to enjoy fighting. Kenpachi restrains his strength so that he can lower his tier to fight other people at even levels. Meanwhile, Unohana learned healing so she could just fight forever without worrying about anything. That's her realization that Kenpachi's peak he's probably much higher than hers because his method of enjoying this twisted hobby, I guess, if you could call it anything, is just at a different level than her. And until she met him, she kind of just had an empty life. It's my personal headcanon. I don't think this is confirmed anywhere. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I like to believe that she mastered Kaido and learned healing after they fought. Because this is like the first fight that we know of from her where she actually struggled. Fighting this random kid in a forest pushes her to the brink of death. And I really like to imagine that that's the moment where she finally decided, okay, maybe I'm not invincible. I should probably learn how to keep myself alive. And it ends up being for his sake. And she says that herself. She knew that this was a fated moment. Her entire life had been leading up to this, passing on the mantle. This guy is the one worthy of having the title Kenpachi. As we spend the last moments of the chapter with her simply saying, farewell, the one man in this world who brought me joy. Beautiful final 2 pages of the two just looking at each other with smiles on their faces as Kenpachi goes in and stabs her. It's such a twisted way of showing affection, but you just get it. It's using human emotions in something that is very much not human to tug at your heartstrings. What we're reading is absolutely absurd. It is literally 2 people killing each other. Literally, I'm serious. Kenpachi dies like 25 times in this chapter. This chapter tells a complete story, and I just absolutely love the story that it's telling. And yeah, you do kind of have to take it out of context because it is unfortunate about Unohana. You can't deny it. It sucks that she is used as a plot device. She could have been used more. Maybe she should have even been involved in the 1,000-Year Blood War. This could have been handled better, but I really love what we got. So I always go back and forth on it. It's so hard for me to imagine the story play out the same way without this happening. Maybe you could have revealed her whole deal earlier, but I think that would make this whole part of the story less effective. Ed showed up for peak fiction. Unohana, as a character, from the beginning, whether Kubo thought it out or not, existed for this moment, and she literally tells us that in this chapter. She was born to do this. And I believe it, man. Like, this chapter sells you on that absurd notion. So even though I do myself go back and forth on the topic of Unohana's handling, I can't deny that what we got out of her is literally the best stuff in the series, in my opinion. This fight and everything about its handling and how it was brought on is just perfect. I love it as is. There's things in a grander scale about it that frustrate me, but if I just hone in this event in its little box and keep it all contained, the story it's telling would work as like a movie. It has a complete arc. You would start the movie with their flashback together and you end with this. It's a complete narrative arc that's shockingly complex and deep for something as simple as this. It's just absolutely brilliant. And I really would have it no other way. It may be controversial, but man, it is what it is. You just can't deny quality. I think I've stated my case on this chapter. There's tons of others I could have chosen, but I really do think this one stands out amongst them all as the perfectly executed and written part of the story. That might sound insane to some of you, I understand, but hey, it's just my opinion, and I get where you're coming from if you disagree, but I just love this so much, and neither of these two are even my favorite characters. My favorite character is Rukia, and honestly, her Bankai activation chapter could have been my favorite chapter if it wasn't like split in half with another part of the story. The chapter where she activates her Bankai and kills Asnot is another thing happens in the same chapter. So I can't in good conscience say that that's the best chapter because it just isn't. It's the end of something cool and the beginning of something less cool, but still cool. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts on this chapter. I'm sure I'll be opening up an interesting conversation with this one. There's discourse aplenty around this part of the story, but hey man, that's just part of art. Let's hear about it. Tell me what you think. Let's hash it out. Get to the bottom of this in the comments, I guess. Remember, you can also become a channel member at 3 tiers. You can click the join button to see what tier works best for you. Get things like early access to new videos, emotes, exclusive monthly videos, your name in the credits, And if you join at the highest tier, you'll get your name read out loud right now. So thank you to DJ Tengen, Milu Kitty, Braden Farrell, Halfpipe, Rafker, The Cosmer64, Cosmic, Key to the Skies, Iliadis, Noobs Rock, Dan, The World's Burst, Menacing Pigeon, Papa Aeon, Gaming Anime Addict, BNE, Rocket Bacon, and A the Seller. Thank you all so much for your support, and thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in whatever you decide to watch next. Take it easy, guys.